Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 20.3C. I've entitled this video, Challenges of East Africa. This video is going to cover pages 631 to 633, and yes, my voice is sounding much better now. Challenges. Today the people of East Africa face many complex, challenging issues. Some of the most important challenges involve economic development, the environment, and health. Economic development. Agriculture is the main economic activity in East Africa. Farmers in the region, however, faced difficult challenges. First, the soils in East Africa are not especially fertile. Second, climate conditions are often unpredictable. Rainfall can be intermittent. Droughts can severely damage crops. Question number 1. What is the main economic activity of East Africa? Agriculture, farming. 2. What are the challenges facing the farmers of East Africa? Well, first, the soils in East Africa are not especially fertile, as you can see in the picture there. And secondly, the climate conditions are hit or miss. They're variable, unpredictable. Intermittent rain, drought, all these things can make farming extremely challenging. Government policies in some countries of East Africa also favor the production of cash crops, such as coffee, for export. Such policies harm subsistence farmers who attempt to produce enough food to meet local needs. Much of this pattern of growing cash crops results from colonialism. Even after the countries of East Africa gained independence, the practice of growing cash crops for sale continued. Self-sufficiency is a challenge in East Africa. The region is one of the poorest in the world. In addition, the population of many countries there is growing at a faster rate than the world's average. Industrialization has come slowly for East Africa. Necessary resources such as trained workers, new facilities, and equipment have been lacking. In Ethiopia, for example, manufacturing amounts to only about 10% of the economy. Most of Ethiopia's exports are agricultural products. Its most important export is coffee. Question number 3. What do government policies in agriculture favor in some of the East African countries? The harvesting or production of cash crops, which takes precedent over the subsistence farmers growing food just to feed their families. Question 4. What are 4 more challenges facing East African countries? Well, number 1, you have self-sufficiency, being able to help themselves, produce for themselves. Secondly, it's one of the poorest areas in the world. Third, their population is growing faster than the world's average. And fourth, it's been hard to get industrialization or businesses, factories, to come to East Africa. Question number 5. What are 3 necessary resources that are lacking in many of these East African countries? They're missing trained workers, new facilities, and equipment. Question 6. What is Ethiopia's most important export? Coffee. The emphasis on primary industries that harvest or extract raw material, such as farming, mining, and logging, is also derived from colonialism. Colonial powers developed their colonies to provide products for the powers. Even after independence, the former colonies continue to produce the same products. In Tanzania, the economy is mostly agricultural. Many farmers practice subsistence farm agriculture. Corn, also known as maize, rice, millet, bananas, barley, wheat, potatoes, and cassava are among the important crops. Coffee and cotton are the most important cash crops. Gold is Tanzania's most valuable export. Question number 7. How does the colonialism of the past still impact the economies of East Africa today? Well, when these areas were colonies and the European countries were basically trying to get all the resources out of there, it led to the concept of having them just harvest things through farming, mining, and logging without care of building up industry in the area. So it's constantly just a matter of these areas producing stuffs that can be used by other countries without growing a better economy for the region. Question number 8. What is Tanzania's economy mostly based on? It's mostly based on, once again, farming or agriculture. Question number 9. What is Tanzania's most important export? Gold. In In parts of East Africa, the economy has suffered because of civil war and political instability. The economy also is linked to the availability of transportation, communication, and education. One key indicator of progress in education is a country's literacy rate. And once again, remember, literacy is the ability to read and write. Literacy rates across the region range from a low of 38% in Somalia to a high of 87% in Kenya. And you can see this map over here that shows you the literacy rates of the countries of East Africa. And you can see the wide variety and how it is definitely impacting these countries. Question number 10. What has hurt the economy in some parts of East Africa? Civil war and then political instability, not having a government that is stable for the people. And question 11. What is a key indicator of a country's improving education? You can tell if a country is improving with their education by looking at their literacy rate. How well can their people read and write? Environmental issues. East Africa faces challenging issues related to the environment. The region's lack of electric power has quickened the pace of deforestation. People are cutting down trees to meet their energy needs at an alarming rate. They use the wood to cook food and heat their homes. Along with deforestation, desertification poses serious problems in countries like Sudan. Question number 12. What environmental impact does a lack of electricity have on East Africa? Well, because they lack electrical power, it has quickened the pace of deforestation because they need those trees to meet other needs that electricity could meet if they had electricity. Question number 13. What are the two main reasons why people are cutting down trees in East Africa? Well, because they don't have electricity, they're cutting down these trees to, number 1, cook their food, and 2, heat their homes. Question number 14. Besides deforestation, what is another D word that provides serious challenges for East African countries like Sudan? Desertification, and we've talked about that before. By setting up national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, the countries of East Africa are hoping that this will boost their economies and preserve their heritage. Ecotourism is tourism for the sake of enjoying natural beauty and observing wildlife. Revenue from ecotourism is important to the East African economy. Question 15. What is ecotourism? That is tourism for the sake of enjoying natural beauty and observing wildlife. So you're selling people's basically wanting to come and view your natural beauty of your region, your land, and all the wildlife that you have in the area. And question 16, 2 ways the East African countries promote ecotourism is they have national parks and they have wildlife sanctuaries. And these are both pictured in these amazing pictures in the bottom. Wild animals such as elephants and lions also face the threat of poaching. Poaching is the trapping or killing of protected wild animals for the sake of profit in the illegal wildlife trade. African elephants are especially vulnerable to poaching. They are killed for their ivory tusks. Question 17. What is poaching? Poaching is the trapping or killing of protected wild animals for the sake of making lots of money in the trade of these protected creatures. Question 18. Why are African elephants poached? For their ivory tusks. Health issues. In East Africa, poor nutrition continues to be a difficult problem to overcome. One of the main causes of hunger and malnutrition in the region has been war. Since 1990, conflict in several East African countries has halted economic development and caused widespread starvation. Large numbers of refugees have poured across international borders. Question number 19. Since 1990, what 2 main impacts have the conflicts in East Africa had on the East African countries? It's led to hunger and malnutrition. Question number 20. What impact have the conflicts in East Africa had on refugees? Well, it's caused large numbers of refugees to leave these areas and go to other countries where these problems aren't occurring. HIV/AIDS is a serious and often fatal disease affecting people in the region. AIDS is an abbreviation that stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. AIDS is caused by a virus that spreads from person to person. This disease continues to be a major health issue in Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. The resources required for medical education and treatment have put a further strain on East African economies. And you can see on the map here, this map basically saying per 100 adults, how many of them per 100 are affected by AIDS. And as you can see, in the countries of North Africa that we studied before, the rates are less than 0.1%. But you go to these East African countries, some of which are at 4% or higher. There's 4.7, there's 5.4. So in some of these East African countries, HIV/AIDS is really putting a huge devastating effect on their country. Question number 21. What is AIDS? AIDS is an abbreviation that stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. It's caused by a virus and it can be extremely fatal. Question 22. How has AIDS impacted Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia? Well, these three countries considered a major health issue, as you can see from the map over here. In question 23, what are three huge factors that have greatly contributed to a lower life expectancy in East Africa? Well, that's not on this slide. It's on this slide. So let's read the slide and then we'll answer that last question. Deaths from AIDS have cut the average life expectancy in East Africa. Drought and famine also have an impact on life expectancy. In East Africa, life expectancy at birth is 58 years in Rwanda and 62 years in Sudan. In Kenya, it is 63 years. By contrast, life expectancy in the United States is now about 78.5 years. And as you look at and of course that information is from the textbook when it was printed. This is a snapshot in 2023. Just look at the life expectancies in these East African countries in comparison to the United States, which is close to 80 in 2023. Some of these countries like Somalia, 57.4, Kenya, 63.3, South Sudan, 56.5. People in this part of the world are living close to 25 years less than us here in the United States. Question 23. What are three huge factors that have greatly contributed to a lower life expectancy in East Africa? Number 1 is AIDS. Number 2 is drought. And number 3 is famine. Well, thank you so much for watching. Before we go, I'm going to leave you with this, another Far Side cartoon. Now remember, roar just as you leap. These things have some of the greatest expressions. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.